The All Dress Podcast with Conor McKenna, Eric Macramella, and Shaun Starr starts now.
All right. Yeah. Welcome back. It's a new episode of All Dressed. This is a very special episode and one that we've so been looking forward to sharing with you. We wanted to wait until we found out what Marc Bergevin was going to do and what the other GMs around the NHL were going to do. Now we know. Now we can officially bring you this episode with all the knowledge that we need. Welcome back and thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for watching if you're watching us or if you're listening to us, whichever method you're using. There's so many different ones. I don't even understand all of them. Spotify and iTunes and...
Well, actually, Conor, I was thinking, should we get that guy from Nelson Mandela's funeral to sign the entire podcast?
Who?
Remember the guy who signed?
That's a
great
great
idea. Made up
idea.
all the signing.
Oh, he
was the best.
It was gibberish.
Yeah. No shame. That's one
Yeah.
of my favorite moments in the history of humanity.
We've seen that for other stuff too. With
the woman who was doing it for Fauci, for Dr. Fauci, when he was doing his everyday press conferences, she was like so animated, man.
They're like, nobody will notice, and if they do, they can't say anything. So bad. All right, so welcome to the show, everybody. We are just removed from the trade deadline in the National Hockey League, and let's talk for starters a little bit about what did and did not happen. Everybody had their own level of expectation going in here. Marc Bergevin made a couple of moves, depth moves probably mostly. We'll see where John Merrill fits in. We'll see where Eric Gustafsson fits in, but nothing to significantly alter the makeup of this team. They're going forward with pretty much the core, certainly the core that they have, and pretty much the group that they had. Eric Macramella, Canada's favorite lawyer.
My man.
Ooh,
How you feeling?
I am feeling great. This is a special episode, Conor, as you said, because we're doing the podcast after a Habs win and a big win. That makes it very special. A related story, here's all my paperwork. I'm seeking to adopt Josh Anderson, so I'm beginning to work on the paperwork. I love him. I love his hockey hair. I love everything about him. And Shaun, Josh Anderson presents something we have not seen in decades in Montreal. That is a legitimate, bona fide power forward. So yes, Conor and Shaun, I'm in a terrific mood, and the beard is great. All the lice is out, so I'm good.
Get a room, brother. As long as you can have Andy, just stay off my Corey Perry. That's my shotgun Corey Perry. You can have your Andy, I've shotgun Corey Perry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. You guys love Josh Anderson and Corey Perry.
Love him. Love.
Sean.
Yes, Conor.
Trade deadline.
Yeah. I like it. It's what I expected. So, because it's kind of what I wanted the players to kind of have this sense of well, the GM did a lot for you in the offseason leading up to the January restart. So kind of do something for him. That was my honest to God, perspective on the Canadians and what they did. And understanding that, look, I mean, Xavier Ouellet, while could be fine in spot duty, this team, I think, owes it to Carey Price, to Shea Weber, to Brendan Gallagher, the guys have been around here for a little bit now, to get them players that you could throw over the boards and you can more or less trust. And I understand it's a dangerous word because, to me, as bad as Gustafsson is defensively, and the scouting report that this guy's like a disaster defensively, and the fact is he's still more trustworthy than Victor Mete and Xavier Ouellet. And that's where I think Marc Bergevin did a good job.
Eric,
why you disagree, Conor?
You know what? I mean, is it ideal what transpired and unfolded? Is that ideal? No, but his hands were relatively tied. I mean, I don't know how much more he could have improved the team within the constraints of salary cap. I love Anthony Mantha, but what the Capitals gave up was substantial, probably too much for a player like him, to the point where, the Canadians were smart not making that type of deal. The Canadians, now this is their team. There wasn't much they could do to improve the team. I'm okay with these depth defensemen. Certainly is an improvement on Mete, who's now gone, and an improvement on Ouellet. So Conor, ultimately, I don't think that I'm surprised by what unfolded. Would I love to have seen a great acquisition? Yes, but was it realistic? Probably not.
You mentioned the Mantha trade, and if that's going to be our, the baseline, and I think it's a good one because the Capitals are a team that I think has legitimate Stanley Cup aspirations this year, right? They believe that their window is still open, and they know that it's open, or at least was open at one point because they won the Cup. And you're right, the price that they paid, Steve Yzerman is as good as they get. I think you got Joe Sakic and Steve Yzerman. I think it's really cool, actually, having watched these guys and having them been two of my favorite hockey players during my prime as a sort of a teenage hockey fan, that they're now two of the smartest GMs in the game. And if I'm a NHL general manager and I see Steve Yzerman's name on my caller ID, I don't know if I want to take that call. That's a really good move. Anthony Mantha, I like Anthony Mantha, don't get me wrong, but is he better than Jakub Vrana, the guy that the main piece that he was traded for?
Right.
Debatable. He's certainly bigger. And that's something that we know so many NHL GMs fetishize. Other than that, though, he added a bunch more pieces, right? He took on some salary, which he can afford to do, which is another thing that a smart GM does right now. And that's a position that, Marc Bergevin is not in Steve Yzerman's position, nor is he in Brian McClellan's position there in Washington. I don't think the Canadians are an Anthony Mantha away from a cup. And if they had a Jakub Vrana to give up in a trade for Mantha, we might be pretty unhappy, right? I mean, Vrana's kind of like Tatar a little bit. Like, this will be my comparable. If Tatar was 4 years younger and under contract, and they decided to trade him for a guy who's arguably not better than him, but is bigger than him, plus gave up a first and a second in the process, I wouldn't be happy. So I don't think there was a big time move for Bergevin to make. I think, Shaun, you're right. He made his big time moves in the offseason, and that's how the chips were going to fall. They're going to get Sherratt back. They're going to get Gallagher back. They're going to get Price back. They look at all of those, I think, as being things that are going to make this team better in the here and now. And I don't know to what extent he considers himself a Stanley Cup contender, Bergevin, but I think this is a dose of reality. Arpon Basu wrote well about this. They're an up and down team. They're rarely consistent. They don't go on long winning streaks. They also avoid long losing streaks, but ultimately they're not dominating anybody on a night in, night out basis, nor they're being dominated. So I'm happy with what they did.
Yeah, listen, I'm not walking back. I don't think anybody here is walking back their predictions of the Canadians, making the playoffs. And what I like about all of this, and the fact that they didn't have to, like to your point, Conor, about have to throw in, let's say, a Cole Caulfield or someone to bring in what might be a hope and a prayer that, you can win a couple of rounds, that hopefully things, and, there's going to be a lot of hope here in my next couple of sentences, that hopefully Brendan Gallagher sees that hand specialist and it doesn't get worse, it gets better, and that he comes in. So now you can look at Paul Byron off a predominant role that he's been playing in. Brendan Gallagher gets back. Yoel Armia, Dominic Ducharme today saying he's getting back. The cardio's, work in progress, but he'll be back pretty soon. Jake Evans played on the right side last night, so Yoel Armia will go there, right? So you're starting to see the fact that this team is going to be together, knock on wood, healthy, and into the playoffs. And to me, this is where, you can make hay. You can earn your reputation. You can find out the type of teammates you have in that room, like who's ready to go, who's ready to lay it on the line in a hypothetical game 6, who's showing up. Who's showing up in this hypothetical? And I think it's very important to figure out who you've got and who shows up in big moments.
Shaun, I'll say two things to that. First is, as an Expos fan, we learned quite well that hope is the privilege of the weak. So if you're hoping for things to happen, they typically don't. But that being said, I don't know if we need to hope a lot with this team. Yeah, during the regular season, it's been an up and down type of season. But the Canadians are built for the playoffs. And I'm telling you, based upon last night's game, I was deeply impressed by the Montreal Canadiens, but in the first period, how aggressive their forecheck was, how physical they were. They looked really good. This is a team that can beat the Leafs in the best of 7. That's right. I said that.
Like you say that, but I don't want to pick a fight, but if you want to fight,
please, let's fight.
Warmed up. I'm ready. But like you say, they're built for Conor. Like you said, built for the playoffs. What does that mean? Like I haven't seen them yet. I don't know what you're saying when you say that they're built for the play. I haven't seen it.
But we have talked about this on the show before, have we not? It's that the sort of the big, strong blue line that they have size and they've got a little bit of nastiness, and that in a postseason where presumably referees are letting more slide and the front of the net needs to be cleared out, that blue line is going to be something that works out well for them. That they've got a team that's good at 5-on-5. So they don't need to worry necessarily about special teams as much because there's fewer special teams opportunities in the postseason in general. So maybe that bears well. And that they've got 2 solid options in goal, which we learned in last year's playoffs is important for a team to be successful. I mean, Eric, you want to add anything to that?
Honestly, what I would say is what Conor just said, Shaun. I would record it. I would replay it again. I would move my lips to that because everything he said, in my opinion, is bang on. It is a physical team, a good 5-on-5 team. Then you got guys like Stahl and Perry and Anderson and Toffoli and Edmondson and Petrie and Weber. These are guys that will perform in the playoffs, and we saw it in the bubble. A lot of these guys really picked up their game, and typically, I don't know if you can actually pick up your game, but somehow the Canadiens in the bubble were a lot better than we're in the regular season. If I'm the Leafs, I'm concerned, man.
What did I tell you? Stay away from Corey Perry. You're handsome. You're rich. You're very attractive. You can pull away. Stay away from Corey Perry.
But to if I can also just touch on Shaun's point, or maybe what I think Shaun was trying to get at a little bit is, can you not hear me or something?
No, I can't. I was just pushing you closer into my ears.
Oh.
You have a very nice voice.
But it is that ultimately, as much as we can talk about how this team is built for the playoffs, we really don't know. I mean, it's also possible that all of a sudden the playoffs come around and Joel Edmondson, Ben Sherratt, and Shea Weber look out of their league, and Carey Price isn't making saves, and the 5-on-5 scoring becomes irrelevant just because they're not putting it in the net, and neither is the power play. Now, I'm not saying I think that's going to happen, but we don't know really. In theory, on paper, look like they're built for the playoffs, right?
Well, that's it. Joel Edmondson to me is like really improved. He's playing a lot of minutes, and you brought up Shea Weber's name right there, Conor. And the first thing I was like, in conversation, in context with the playoffs, and you've got the captain of the team going the other way that the rest of the athletic world is going. No, play me more. I want to play more minutes, more minutes.
I don't think so, Jerry.
When Conor played that clip for us the other day, it's like, what are you talking about? The trend is the other way, Shay, not play more. That's a red flag, Conor.
Well,
no, it's true. Weber says play me more. I'm thinking, no, play you less. By the way, Edmondson last night played the most minutes for the Canadiens, and I know he leads league in plus minus. It just goes to show, Conor, that Ducharme's got a lot of confidence in him, and I love that. And Shaun is right. His play it continues to evolve, continues to get better, and I'm excited about it, man.
Yes, and the fact that they put Kulak with Weber was an interesting one, a bit of an adventure, some good, some bad. But the Petrie Edmondson pairing, which was the Canadiens' best wire-to-wire, has been their best pairing this year. Yeah. Nice to see them back together after an up and down dozen or so games in which they had been separated. All right, so next thing, let's talk about the game last night. Eric, you brought it up off the top. Impressed with the performance. I also was impressed with the performance. I love the way they set the tone physically early. I love that they got the first goal. That was the first time they'd led a game, you guys, since April 1st, which, granted, is not right. First, but yeah, they had not led a game up until the point where they got that opening goal. And I liked it, for sure. And I like that they ended Jack Campbell's stupid win streak that we've been hearing too much about, and that they can, the Leafs can stop talking about that now. But I also can't help but think of the game on Saturday night. I mean, that wasn't that long ago either. And I think it's a perfect illustration, right? Arpin wrote about this in The Athletic, but it's a perfect illustration of this team. They can look the way they looked on Saturday night, which was their worst game of the season, I think. Mm-hmm. And then on Monday night, they can do what they just did to the Toronto Maple Leafs, and that is hang with them and set the tone in a game against the best team in Canada right now. And that's the thing about this team that I find to be, it's a little bit frustrating, but it also makes them interesting.
It is a concern. I think that's the primary concern with this team, is you're not entirely sure which team is going to show up. Before the game last night, Tatar expressed enthusiasm for that game and how excited he was to play it because it presented as such a wonderful challenge. When I saw that, I'm like, oh, Tatar will have a good game. And I love that level of confidence. He wasn't concerned. He was really, really positive. He ended up playing really well in that game and had a really good first period. And Canadiens were so aggressive on the forecheck in the first period, but the Leafs did make the adjustment, and they are a fast team. They can score and they can bear down on you. So look, the Leafs are a good team. It was a really fun, entertaining game to watch. When the Canadiens face them in the first round, which seems to be the case, it's going to be a challenge. Absolutely. And if the right Canadiens team shows up 4 out of 7 games, then we might be okay.
But to Connor's point when he threw it to you was well, what happened Saturday, right? Like that's the obvious thing. You watch last night, and you contrast that with Saturday, and you're like completely and utterly baffled. Well, I think I figured it out. Here's what I think is going on. Eric, you said the Canadians are built for the playoffs. TBD. I don't think the Leafs are built for the playoffs because of how the Canadians push them around a little bit. Like maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, but go back to Mr. Lova, Corey Perry, going to Jack Campbell, getting in his ear, trying to get him off kilter. Last week when they played the Leafs, or a week and a half ago when they played the Leafs, Kotkaniemi put a little stick to John Tavares' back in front of Campbell. He fell down to the ice. Nobody went to the captain's defense. Nobody. It stood out to me. Okay, it stood out to me. And I think when, to the point that you guys made earlier about the refs and their tendencies to bury whistles in the playoffs, I think the Leafs can be pushed around. Maybe Nick Foligno changes that. We'll see. But I think there is that element of being tough and not necessarily big, but being tough, playing through it, that I'm not convinced I see enough of it from Toronto. And when Winnipeg comes in, they push Montreal around, and maybe that explains Saturday. Maybe Montreal didn't want to get messed up with them all that much, and didn't have it in them to get into that confrontation.
So I mean, by that rationale, then Winnipeg is so much tougher than Toronto, right?
Yes, but does that win you a series? That's probably over the skill.
That's what I'm. First of all, I'm not sure how much I agree with all of this, but I do think that Kyle Dubas sees something in it because he's the one who went out and got Nick Foligno and is been trying to become grittier. It seems through all the moves he's made in the last couple of months. But I think now you can tell me I'm wrong about this, but it seems to me that sort of when you start talking about which team is tougher, that's when you're sort of trying to come up with reasons why a team that's not as good as the other team at hockey is going to win against the other team. Like it starts to sound to me a little bit like you're grasping at straws a little bit for.
And that's fair. But just to clarify, it's more like standing up for teammates, rallying around a teammate that maybe the perception is, you took a liberty with that guy. Not necessarily dropping the gloves and stare you in the face. I'm going to, Milan Lucic, punch your teeth out there. But just being a strong team together, where anytime when the Bruins won their cup when they beat Vancouver, you looked at Bergeron the wrong way. You had 5 teammates to answer to. That's the type of attitude I was looking for.
Yeah.
I think Connor, I think you make a good point. I think you make a good point in that as sports fans, we're often guilty of having our theories being aspirational in nature, and that we look at a team and we want them to succeed. So we will develop a theory that that makes sense and that allows them in our mind to have a chance of success down the line. You are right. I mean, this is an uneven team, and it's a wonderfully inconsistent team that has some great nights and other nights looks absolutely terrible. The Leafs, though, pretty much for a lot of games this season, they can score goals and they are dynamic. And when Nylander comes back, that's a team to be reckoned with. So maybe you're right. Maybe we have no chance.
I didn't say that.
No one's saying that.
I want to be clear that that's not what I'm saying at all.
No. I'm just kidding.
The Leafs have a hell of a team. And I'm certainly a person who's able to give credit in this case where credit's due. I think if the shoe's on the other foot and we're doing a podcast where we're focused on the Leafs, we're excited about this team. I mean,
yes,
very, very excited about the different ways in which they can beat you, the kind of cool mix of these, the old guys of Thornton and Spezza and what they bring, and adding Foligno, I think is a good little add. And I don't mind Simmons in the role that he's playing for them. But anyway, we're not going to of course, the Leafs are terrible. We're not, of course, throwing any accolades their way.
Although, Connor, is there any value? Because it seems like the Leafs are doing one thing in these trades in the offseason. They're collecting captains. Is there a value in having that many captains on your team in the playoffs? I mean, I would assume that's probably, it's not going to hurt you.
I believe
the Canadians with all their cups, right?
What?
Oh, it's different. No, I'm talking about how the Leafs have been acquired. Like Foligno was a captain, Thornton was a captain, Spezza was a captain. They've got a captain now.
To me, it's meaningful.
Agreed.
For sure. I mean, look, it's not everything though. At the end of the day, is there such a thing as too many captains? There's certainly such a thing as too many cooks. But maybe it means something, maybe it doesn't. It's hard to say. And if they win, then I'm sure people will talk about the multiple captain factor. And if they lose, probably not something that's going to come up very, very much, I would imagine.
No, but I'd rather be in the Canadian situation if we're weighing experience versus experience. I'd rather have members of the Triple Gold Club and guys who have closed out Stanley Cup titles than guys who were captains in Columbus and San Jose and won nothing as a team.
Fair.
Yeah.
Take that,
Fair.
Macramella.
No, that's fair. I was just asking the question. I was just curious because I started during the game last night. I just started counting all the captains. I'm like, it's a lot of captains.
So, Shaun, you love Josh Anderson, and you've made no secret of this, and not as much as Eric does, obviously. But you, early this season, you were telling me you thought he was the best forward on the team. Do you still believe that Josh Anderson's the Canadians' best forward?
Yeah, I do. He brings so many different elements to the game that he can actually finish on. Like when we talk about Suzuki and how smart he is and he's a good passer, Kotkaniemi could do this and he's starting to get better at that. Well, Anderson's aggressive. He's fast. He isn't timid. He drops his shoulder and goes to the net. Like all of these different things that, I've been watching this team. It feels like a minute. And I can't say right now at the top of my head that the Canadians have really ever in my lifetime had that type of player play for them. And the fact that he's actually delivering is kind of unexpected. It's a nice feeling, I think, Eric, to get used to, that you can get prized to players signing long-term deals and they're actually they don't fade away and they're not just playing for a paycheck and a free pass to dinner at Da Vinci's or something.
No, this is incredibly exciting. I know when he was acquired, my buddy who's a hockey agent texted me and he said, man, you guys are so lucky. You're so lucky because a lot of teams wanted this guy. You're going to love him. What we see with him is that on his own, he's impactful. He doesn't need other guys. Like Jean Drouin needs other guys so he can look effective. Other players need other guys. Byron needs other guys. But Josh Anderson just does stuff on his own. And he's so impactful and he can finish. It's exciting. And his forecheck isn't that bad either. And he's tough. And other players say, man, when he hits us, it kind of hurts. He's a hard guy to play against. So I love him. As I said, I want to adopt him. I've sent the paperwork in, and there's a very good chance that next game his name will be Josh Macramella.
J-Mac.
No hyphen. Yeah.
I think, Eric, do you think he's their best forward?
Yes, by far.
By far.
If I'm assessing impact, there's not a single player on this team that unto themselves has this level of impact. Gallagher's
the closest guy.
Yes, fair.
Gallagher's the guy. If it's not Anderson,
but I would
Gallagher.
say in the playoffs, Gallagher becomes more of a perimeter guy and has struggled in the playoffs. He was okay last year in the second half of the playoffs, but look at his body work in the playoffs generally. For being honest about it, he was a bit of a perimeter guy, where Josh Anderson should enjoy more success in the playoffs than Gallagher did.
What's Josh Anderson's body of work in the playoffs consist of exactly?
A big body, beautiful body. It's a wonderful body.
Okay,
and trust me,
I am. With respect to his body of work, I am forecasting a good playoff for him.
Yeah,
I can't believe somebody on a Montreal Canadiens heavy podcast just called Gallagher a perimeter player
in the playoffs. Yeah. I mean,
Josh
last
Anderson.
year in the playoffs, you can slice those playoffs into two. He had a good back end to it, but over the past few series, he's not as effective in the playoffs because they keep him to the outside.
Yeah. Nobody's. I mean, very few guys are as effective in the playoffs when goals are harder to come by. In defense of Brendan Gallagher, who you're so mercilessly attacking here, Eric.
Love him though, love him.
But let me just. So Josh Anderson's got 8 points in his playoff career in 21 career games, 3 goals, 5 assists, 8 points in 21 games. Brendan Gallagher's playoff career, 49 games, 11 goals and 25 points. So I don't think you can argue that the goal per game production, I would say, is down. He's never scored more than 4 goals in a playoff series or in a playoff season or run.
Yeah.
His best run was 11 points in 17 games when they went to the conference finals back in 2014. I personally believe that Brendan Gallagher is the Canadians' best forward, but I am. I can see why you guys would say that it's Anderson, and I certainly do not begrudge your opinions, nor do I begrudge you your right to have them. I mean,
well, certainly. I mean, it's a good problem. I mean, it's good to have both players, right, Connor? I mean,
no doubt.
Yeah.
Right. But it also he surpassed expectations, man, and the season's not over. Like there was legitimate, not hater concerns, but serious, wonderment about like his off-season surgery, his ability to recover from injury, all of these little things, wondering, well, now he signed a big deal, playing in a pressure-packed environment like Montreal and the expectation. So all of those things, we've seen it, countless examples, Connor, of players that have come to Montreal via trade or not, and just haven't delivered. And he is delivered.
It's a great story. Him along with Tyler Toffoli are great stories. And isn't it rare in life when things live up to expectation, or that your greatest hopes are sort of realized? And Anderson is an example of that, who keeps on giving. Which brings me to Cole Caulfield. I got to ask you guys about, speaking of things that lived up to or exceeded expectations, what a debut weekend for Cole Caulfield, including winning the Hobey Baker Award as the top player in the U.S. in the NCAA's college ranks. What do you think, Shaun? You've been pretty vocal on your keep him in the AHL stance, which ultimately I think it's, as we always say here, nobody ever complains that a guy spent too long in the AHL. It's not a thing that happens, right? However, did you see that first goal he scored? Did you notice that he scored the game-winning goal in that second game? Did we see his ability to just find pockets of open space and do the things that he can do? And he's more than just a shot, right? He's a guy who finds ways of getting into places where the opposing team forgets about him, creating odd man rushes, creating situations, not a liability in his own zone, but that's not his game. It's not his strength. He's never going to win a Selke Award, but lay it on me here. I got to start with you, Shaun, Mr. Keep him in the AHL. Were two games enough to convince you to change your mind?
I couldn't stop thinking about what you had said on the morning show, I think before his weekend games on RDS, that you were asking, I think, Mark Denis about could he get close to replicating Ryan Paling's debut, right? I mean, the infamous hat trick in the shootout winner against Toronto and the world's of light. And then Caulfield goes and basically pulls a Paling just over 2 games, right? I mean, follows the puck to the net, scores on a one-timer, just did all of those things. It still hasn't changed my mind. I want to see him finish out the AHL season. I don't want to see him get called up, for example, when the Habs are doing their thing out in Alberta next week and they're playing a slew of games against Edmonton and Calgary. Like, I don't want to see him called up there. I want to see a sustained level of consistency from the Laval Rocket, and in particular, Joel Bouchard, because I think if I'm going to be consistent at the pro level, I feel, Eric, my opinion has to be the same at the amateur level, or the AHL level, I should say, in that it's great to have Suzuki, Kotkaniemi, and Romanov kind of experience this together. I want Caulfield to be part of that Laval group with a few guys that'll be graduated, and they can come together in symmetry, and then there's no rush, and I just like that. And maybe I'm burned. Maybe I'm burned as a guy who's been watching this team for a long time and in a way covering this team for a long time, that there's just too many examples of rushed players that come to mind. Not Cole Caulfield, not this time, not for me.
And it's not just with the Canadians, it's across all 4 sports. When players are called up too early, that can inflict great harm on their career and undermine their confidence. So I would say proceed with caution here. I love to see what he is doing with Laval, but unless he can show at this early stage that he can dominate his opponents and that he doesn't belong at this level and that there's nothing really left for him to learn, then you keep him there. And I think you need to proceed with caution. I think he's going to be what we think he's going to be, a player that can score and score a lot of goals. But I don't know to the extent that you need to call him up now, because if you do, and it doesn't go well, you got to send him back down. I don't know if that provides him the level of confidence that you need.
I think of 2 different Canadians players who played in the AHL in the last 10 years. The first guy I think of is Victor Mete, who very obviously was in the NHL before he should have been. And I think it had a negative impact on his career. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is pretend that I think Victor Mete would be winning a Norris Trophy someday had he spent the appropriate amount of time in the AHL. This guy was not going to be a star, I don't think. And Eric, by the way, if you were looking to adopt a Canadians player, perhaps Victor Mete is the better answer for you as a resident of Ottawa. Given the age, it's less weird.
Connor, I was on Ottawa radio. I was on Ottawa radio on the mid-afternoon show, and they said, should the Ottawa Senators claim Victor Mete? And I said, yes, they should, and provide a number of reasons. And I hung up, and then they claimed him. So I think it's because of me.
And I think it's a good claim. I think it's a,
yeah, it is.
It's a good claim for the Senators, and I think it's good for Victor Mete that he can get a fresh start with lower stakes and no baggage, basically, right? So I think most Habs fans hopefully wish him the best as well. But the other guy that I think of is PK Subban, and you know, when PK Subban came up a decade ago to join the Canadiens, remember what happened, how he made his debut. It was against Pittsburgh in the playoffs. Andrei Markov had just gone down late in that series. I think it was a game 6. I think, you know what? Was it game 7? And anyway, Markov knee injury, he's done. And we got to call up the kid. Let's do it. They call him up and they slot him out there, and they needed him, right? There was no other choice. There was nobody else waiting in the wings. They weren't deep the way that they are now at the forward position. So if Cole Caulfield plays this year, that's my dream scenario, is that he sort of comes in, and not that I'm hoping anyone gets injured, but that it's a scenario like that where it's like, you know what? Okay, the AHL season is over. The stakes are high right now. You need goals. You need a guy to come up. Here's the kid. Here's your chance, buddy. Stanley Cup playoffs. Let's see it. And if that opportunity were to arise, cool, great. And if it doesn't, then that's okay too.
Yeah, I think there's more of a surprise element in Conor's scenario. Like, what? Who's this guy? Well, we got some games in Laval, but like no one's seen him at the NHL level yet. So yeah, that makes a little bit more sense in my brain.
Okay, let's move on, guys. Unless there's anything else you've like to get off your chest about the Canadiens.
No, sir.
No, I love Corey Perry.
I love Josh Anderson. The email just came in. It says, Eric, I'm happy to be your son. I want my name to be Josh Anderson Macramella, to which I responded, Josh Androlala. Let's combine Anderson and Macramella. I'm so excited, guys.
To tell you.
I have a third son. I
just got an email also. Yeah. You've put me on the list to be a character witness to testify on your behalf. Are you being a good provider? No. I'm sorry. I'm going to say no.
You know what? Anybody who's ever listened to this podcast or Eric's appearances on our show knows that he would be a great provider, if nothing else.
Yes. If nothing else. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
But really, is there anything other than money that you need? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure you can buy happiness.
I'm personally hoping that there's more to it than that in my own life. Okay, guys, let's talk about Alex Rodriguez, because we can't talk about Alex Rodriguez without Eric Macramella's ears burning. It's like the bat signal. When somebody talks about Alex Rodriguez, Eric Macramella knows, and his spidey sense perks up. That's 2 different superhero references in the same little statement here. And he's got things he needs to say. Alex Rodriguez has rehabilitated his image to the point where he has been invited to the table, one of the most exclusive tables that we know in the world of sports. And that is to be an owner of a major sports franchise. That it looks like he's part of a group that's going to be an ownership group with the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah.
The lease.
1.5 billion.
So it's him and others.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's really hard, right? We know this, although with all due respect to like Boots Del Biagio, it can be really hard to get a seat at that table. And we know how that worked out for him in the NHL. But Eric, when you find out that Alex Rodriguez has come all the way back from being one of the most recognizable cheaters in sport to now being invited to this prestigious club, how does it make you feel?
Well, you know, I was listening to you guys on your smash hit show, that is the morning show, and Shaun Starr, and I don't want to get it wrong, Shaun. So maybe actually you could just remind us what you said about A-Rod and what he has done insofar as gaining positive strides.
Sure. So much so that at 8:15, I got a text message from Eric Macramella in capitals. What? With 369 marks of punctuation, always the telltale sign of a stable person. A-Rod is a piece of bleep. Okay. So my take was basically that there are life lessons to be learned in all areas of this great life of ours. And A-Rod's takeaway, and the lesson we can learn from A-Rod, is to tell the truth and be upfront. And even though it lost you over $35 million in an entire season, he admitted that what he did in 2014 was wrong. Shame on me. Shame on me. And that over time, as opposed to like guys like Lance Armstrong or Marion Jones or others that have cheated and absolutely refused to acknowledge their cheating behavior, so much so that they ruined certain people's personal lives because they were trying to prove these people were cheating. Then Alex Rodriguez said, yes, okay, fine. I did it. I cheated. I got suspended. Baseball handled it correctly. And he turned himself in. He's a business mogul. He's now a partner of an NBA ownership group. He is, I think, a fantastic analyst on Fox, especially come playoff time. His insight is off the charts, A+. And I think there's a lesson there. There's a lesson to be learned that you can turn your life around and be back in the good graces of Joe and Susie Public by telling the truth.
That was the take that I reacted to. George is getting upset. George is getting very upset. A-Rod didn't tell the truth because it was the right thing to do. He told the truth because the DEA, the federal DEA, came knocking at his door as well to biogenesis. This is a guy, before he told the truth, not only did he dope for 3 straight years from 2010 to 2012, when baseball caught him and suspended him, he sued Major League Baseball. He sued Bud, the then commissioner of Major League Baseball. Bud Selig is in his personal capacity. He sued the MLBPA and Michael Weiner, who was suffering from cancer, specifically a brain tumor. Suing your own union is like punching yourself in the face. He sued the team doctors, all with the view to trying to create this cloud around the allegations, cloud of uncertainty that he didn't do anything wrong. But then when the DEA said, we actually have evidence that you bought PEDs from Tony Bosch and biogenesis. Mm-hmm. And if you don't admit this, you're going to be going to jail. And he folded like a cheap tent. It's a guy who's cheated for 33% of his career. At least he's admitted to that. 2001 to 2003, 2010 to 2012. And he must have doped in between. But even if he didn't, a third of his career, he cheated. The truth has nothing in common with A-Rod. Everything he has done is incompatible with the notion of fair play and sportsmanship. And as a result, the guys like A-Rod, who by himself, I think, has inflicted more harm on baseball than any other player, including Barry Bonds, but there's definitely a sort of a group effort insofar as that goes. But what A-Rod has done, in my opinion, so undermined a fundamental tenet of what sports is about, that to continue to see him in the public sphere literally turns my stomach, Connor.
I love it. I love it so much, Eric.
But I mean, what I failed to see in this back and forth between the two of you is why you can't both be right.
Right. I agree with that. I agree totally with that.
But well, I guess we can't be right only because, and Shaun, you know I love you. You're the tallest friend I have.
Go ahead.
But I guess we can't agree because you are, I think, expressing that A-Rod has told the truth and done so in this sort of virtuous kind of way. Whereas I'm saying he was threatened by the feds to do so.
Right.
And there's nothing about him in his body of work that would suggest that he's an honest person. In fact, I think it suggests the opposite, Connor.
Of course,
no. My intention was not to portray him as this holier than thou. Look at the error of my ways, and I've completely transformed. I'm not the phony guy who used to wear pinstripe suits and smoke big cigars because that was the perception of a baller in New York, and that's what I had to look like, right? I mean, all these insecurities reported about Alex Rodriguez. It was more along the lines of yes, what you're saying, yes, okay, so fine. He was backed into a corner, and what did he do? He came out and told the truth. He didn't pull what Rafael Palmeiro has done or what Mark McGwire has done when they were called to testify before. I mean, there's a difference there. He ultimately, your argument sounds to me like you take issue with the path that he took to get to the apology. I care more about the fact that, you know what, he sacked up and he did it. And all these years later, he's a mogul, he's an owner, he's an analyst, he's back to being liked again.
But the fact of the matter is that, again, all of these things can exist simultaneously. The fact is that it doesn't matter what the truth is, right?
Right.
This is a perfect illustration of that. Perception is reality, and the actual truth doesn't matter. And the fact is, Eric, while this is a topic you know a lot about, you represent a minority amongst sports fans that know the name of Tony Bosch and the various other details of Alex Rodriguez and the specifics. For most people, Alex Rodriguez, oh yeah, right, he cheated, right? Okay. And that's about it. And since then, Alex Rodriguez, it is a victory of whoever it is that he hired to rehabilitate his image and the work that he did. And the fact that Fox gave him a shot as an analyst, and he's had, right, is he, I don't know if he's still with her, but he was with J-Lo and, very successful.
I think that's over, buddy.
No, they broke up, but they're back together.
Okay. But all of this to say that the Rodriguez has demonstrated this, is that I don't know if there's nothing that you can't come back from with the proper PR strategy, but this is an example of the fact that there's a lot that you can come back from. And the fact that he can be an owner of an NBA team is an illustration of that. Yep. It's a PR victory. It should be a textbook for people learning PR and how to handle scandals and how to handle high profile people whose reputations are in tatters, because as far as rehabilitating an image without having, right, with Tiger Woods, you have the on-course redemption story to tell. Rodriguez doesn't have that, right? I mean, his career was over. We haven't seen him play baseball since his reputation was destroyed, right? Mm-hmm. But yet here he is. I think it's a fascinating and really no, I think I'll just stick with. I was going to say interesting, but
what is?
Well, the other thing I forgot about.
Sean,
he's also a shark. He's also a shark. He's also a judge on Shark Tank.
Yeah,
come on.
I know, Sean. You said, and I think the points you make are interesting because I mean they're sort of a bird's eye view of the whole situation. I think what you're saying is entirely accurate. When Sean says that I don't care how he got to the truth as long as he told the truth, I disagree with that, Sean. I think it's important to assess why someone apologizes. What is their motivation? The other issue, and it speaks to what you're talking about, Conor, and this is where I get a bit emotional about this, because I think it's incumbent on our leaders in our society to lead by example. And when A-Rod and Pete Rose get jobs as analysts on TV on Fox and ESPN respectively, it sends a message. When you allow A-Rod to potentially buy into the Mets, it sends a message. And with the T-Wolves, it's the same thing. I think morals matter. I think holding ourselves to a high ethical standard matters. And I do believe that it is incumbent on our leaders, our business leaders and leaders in our society to lead by example, because it trickles down and it matters. And this is yet another failure in that respect.
I can't disagree with that. But as we often, and I think anybody who's been listening to us for years on the show knows, you Eric, tend to take these things personally in a way that I probably don't. Right. And I think it's an admirable trait. But it is.
No, Eric loves baseball. He loves baseball.
I love baseball too. I'm a sort of a cynic by nature. Yeah. And I've so, I mean, if I were to track the last 23 years, I mean, hell, we kind of knew, didn't we, that Mark McGuire was pumping juice when he was doing that in the summer of 1998, didn't we? I was a 15-year-old kid at the time, and I was like, well, they're already, you're hearing this and you're reading this, you're reading Sports Illustrated and you're reading the various things that are being written at the time. Yeah. And I guess that's the time where I started to take everything in baseball with a grain of salt, I
think Sean just ate one of Ryan Braun's gummy bears. He's going to put on some muscle. You know what's really interesting? What you're really interesting about what you're saying is that, baseball is unique across the four sports, and that it's effectively an individual team or an individual sport played on a team. Pitcher versus batter, right. Batter versus fielder, fielder versus runner. And so when you dope, it has such a significant impact, perhaps more so than other sports that are effectively team sports. So yeah, part of this goes to my love of baseball. And like you, Conor, I was quite cynical growing up, and I still am, but being a lawyer for as long as I have, it does condition you to assess and consider issues of justice. And this is unjust because he's taking jobs from other people. It's unjust because he undermines the very fabric of what we love about sports.
Yeah.
Hey, Eric, when was the last time you objected to in a court case or something? Have you objected recently? I object, Your Honor.
I objected yesterday during a cross-examination. It was a riveting cross-examine.
Did you have the little white
No, I did not.
Okay.
I did not.
Yeah, I think, as always, I think we all have a lot to say about this sort of thing. I think it's a topic we're not done with, and we can dive back in and go deeper on this because I certainly have a lot more thoughts. But we just don't have enough time. We don't want to bore the people. So now we get to the most important part of the show, and that is the Big Four. Wait, have we settled on a name yet?
Was it the Fab Four?
What do you got there?
No, the Fantastic Four?
Is that a caramel egg?
So these little caramel eggs, this little one here, I got some more of these little footballs here.
Oh,
79 cents a pack at the local pharmacy. 79 cents, baby.
This guy, so you're buying reduced price Easter candy.
You know what, Connor? It all changes when you have kids. And I heard you on the air saying you can't wait to eat your kids' Halloween candy. It made me laugh out loud because that's literally what you do, and you're so guilty about it. Then what happens is you develop man boobs, and then you stop.
Oh.
Do you stop, though? Do you stop? What if you already have them? Anyway.
You get Spanx. You get Spanx for men, Connor, and it all goes away.
The man's ear. Yeah. All right.
It is our top four, and we're sticking with positivity here. Eric, this is an Eric Macramella idea. I think this is the first time that we have allowed Eric to have the unfettered choice here without any of us disagreeing or taking the reins away from him. Eric had an idea. We're sticking with Eric's idea, and that is top 4 places you've ever watched a game.
Yeah, it's exciting. You know, as any sports fan, and I've done a lot of traveling. I followed the Expos around for a while, for example, when they would go on some of their road trips. And I've traveled the world because I'm excessively rich. And I always try and catch a sporting event, whatever city I'm in. So my top 4 from 4 to 1 places that I love watching a game. Number 4, this will surprise you, but it won't, is the Big O. Yes, it's a toilet bowl. Yes, it was a big disaster, but it was such an integral part of my childhood. I spent a lot of time at Expos games, being escorted out. And I spent a lot of time hitting that empty seat to my right and my left. That sound would echo through the whole stadium. It's number 4 on my list, not because it's a beautiful place. It's number 4 on my list because it holds a beautiful place in my heart. That's number 4. Number 3.
Sorry. Did you just say being escorted out?
Yes.
Yes, he did, Connor.
Yes, I did.
Care to elaborate?
Well, even when I was 14, I also had this beard. No, you get to some disagreements with people. You know, that's just the way it is. I was a big,
I've been tossed
passionate
before.
Expos fan, really passionate.
So
I've been tossed a few times.
Fans of other teams? Or?
Well, I remember once during a Expos Yankee game, I got punched in the back of the head. So I fought back.
At Olympic Stadium?
No, this was actually Yankee Stadium, actually.
Okay,
so I'm getting it backwards.
Makes more sense.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay, so number 3 on my list, I'm not sure to pronounce it. I think it's Camp Nou or Camp Nou in Barcelona.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I went down to see FC Barcelona play, and it was a beautiful sports experience. Perhaps I've only done it once. It was so unique, and watching Lionel Messi play was a big part of that experience. It was just seemed unfair. It seemed like the ball was just stapled to his foot, and he was just so much better than every human and mammal on that field. And it was just a wonderful, unique experience. Number 2.
Who's that player? Sorry, who's that player you saw play? Sorry?
Lionel Messi.
Okay.
Lionel Messi. Did I make a mistake? Did I say it wrong? Okay.
Lionel Messi.
Oh, sorry. Tony's getting very upset right now. Number 2 on my list. That was an easy one. Fenway Park. Watched a bunch of 3-game sets there against the Expos. Was back 2 years ago. Caught 3 games there. It is beautiful no matter where you sit. I remember sitting in the right field bleachers, sitting in the first row, being at eye level with the players. An amazing experience. The smell of baseball was amazing. Number 1 on my list. I went 2 years ago. I will never forget it. It was an amazing experience. It's Wrigley Field. Yeah, it's a white fan base, no doubt about that. But what a magical baseball experience. I watched 2 games, one across the street. What's the name when you sit on top of the building there? I forget the name of that street. That's the name of the seats.
Sorry,
Waverly.
Yeah, Waverly. So there was a law firm that had an event. So we sat up there. And then the second day, my buddy came down. We had some beers outside of Wrigley. Then we went down and watched the game inside of Wrigley Field. And it was just stunning, guys. It was stunning. That's it. That's all I got about that.
I don't know how I feel about that list. I had an expectation of your list. And
Alfie's?
It didn't make it on the list. But I had the Olympic Stadium too. But I have another local building that I thought was going to make your list. That didn't make your list, buddy.
The Forum?
Yeah.
I was too young. So I'm not going to pretend like it moved me because I've only seen 2 or 3 games there. Anyway.
Fair enough.
Shaun, me? Who's going next? I'll go.
Oh, if you want to do rock, paper, scissors, you guys?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Connor?
Okay. So I'm going to go with the Bell Center at number 4. I've been to I'm so lucky. I mean, even before I started doing the job that I do or have done, covering the Canadians or whatever, I had a knack for going to the right games, and I had friends whose dads had season tickets or whatever. We'd find a way to get there. So I've been to a lot of, if you think of the most iconic moments at the Bell Center, I've been either there as a fan or working the game. And the energy in that building, it's like nothing I've ever experienced in any other building. Granted, I've never been to a place like the New Camp. There's so many places on my bucket list that I hope I get to go to someday. Old Trafford in Manchester, full of 80,000 people, is right there at the top. Man, I mean, anyway, whatever. I'll go with the Bell Center at 4. Number 3, I'm going to go with, I think I'll go with Fenway as my 3. It was interchangeable, Fenway and Wrigley, but I've been lucky enough to go to both those places, so we have that in common, Eric. Just great. There's just, you mentioned the smells in both those buildings. They did such a good job, and baseball did such a good job when they decided to either make the new buildings that they did. It started in Baltimore, I believe it did, with Camden Yards and Jacobs in Cleveland, where they kept the sort of the old ballpark feel instead of building some kind of a newfangled modern monstrosity. But even better than that was the decision ultimately to keep the Fenways and the Wrigleys and to not build a bigger venue and to just make them better. And I'm so happy I've been able to go to both those places. I went to Fenway with Mitch Gallo, and I remember it was the Canadians and the Bruins in the playoffs, and it's the best when the playoffs line up with the baseball season, and you can go to a building. And we did. We were at Regina Pizzeria with Sergio, I think, and Melnick, and maybe Bartlett even at the time, because it was a long time ago, eating a delicious pizza that definitely had anchovies on it, because the best pizzas have anchovies on them. And buying tickets on StubHub. Anybody who's done this knows this, right? Because you can get the view from the seat. It's like, all right, this is what it looks like. And the thing about Fenway is they've got the pillars. And I don't know if Eric, you've ever been stuck behind a pillar at Fenway.
I am not. I always make sure that I'm not.
Exactly. And thankfully we almost bought a pair of tickets that were full pillar between us and the mound, kind of, but we got in, we had good seats. We enjoyed the hell out of ourselves. Wrigley Field, I've been to a couple of times. Again, very
stunning, stunning,
incomparable. Just an amazing, special place. Even walking up to it, right? Being a part of the crowd that walks up and seeing that famous outside, it's amazing. And for me, the best. My favorite sporting event that I've ever attended. It was a World Series game. I went to Minute Maid Park to watch the cheating Astros play in a World Series game. Good seats, and I had my Astros hat on, and I was at a World Series game, which was a bucket list sporting event for me. So, and they lost. They pulled Charlie Morton out of the game too early, and I remember. But those are mine, and it speaks to it. I mean, those baseball parks, and Minute Maid's a good one too.
Yeah,
that's a nice list,
Eric, that you added the Olympic Stadium to your list. It would have made my list. I'm glad that I actually have another defender of the Big O that I can relate to, because I do go on the air. I do defend Olympic Stadium. I have a lot of great memories of going there with friends and hopping on the metro from Couverture, destination Pine 9, and everything that you described. I lived that too, and Conor lived that too. And just, Olympic Stadium will always make my list, but except for this list, because I want to be a little bit more original. So coming into number 4, the first out-of-town venue I ever saw another sporting event was Candlestick Park in San Francisco. My family moved out there when I was 11 years old. I went with them. I lived out in San Francisco for a small stretch of my life, for less than a year. And I'll never forget the smell of garlic fries. I fell in love with garlic as an 11-year-old. You could smell it miles before you would walk up to Candlestick. So I got to see the San Francisco Giants play. So Candlestick is where I begin my list. And then I move up, and I'm going to get to a venue that not a lot of people have ever been to. Not as fancy as traveling over an ocean to get there, but nevertheless, it's still a special venue. But coming in at number 3, it was the first NFL game I ever witnessed live. And it's the Ralph. It's the Ralph Wilson Stadium in Buffalo. I saw the Bills and Indianapolis Colts. I went down with a frenzy.
The woman behind me was flashing us. I was on a date, and she was just really had a big upper body, not just the boobs that were hanging around her, like just falling to the side, and she was hammered and kept flashing us.
Okay, so I'm going to beat you with this story. I'm going to beat you with this story. 2 rows above me, there was a heavy-set lady who blew chunks on her seatmate. And the seatmate was a woman. That woman's husband yelled at the heavyset woman, who threw up. The heavyset woman's husband punched the other woman's husband, and there was a whole brouhaha. So that obviously that was my first ever NFL game, right? And I was bored to tears because I was like, where's my replay? I can't see the running back. Where's the replay? What's all this downtime in football in person?
Bro, that what you described sounds like Buffalo speed dating.
It was terrible. Coming in at number 2, I'll never forget when we walked up the hill to the first tee box at Augusta National, and my buddy Jeff Morahan plucked a couple of blades of grass and proceeded to eat said blades of grass as we welcomed to Augusta National, the holy grail of golf courses in the United States of America. I was lucky enough to be there. My buddy Jeff won the lottery, and he invited me, and we went down in 2019, saw some practice rounds, watched the players knock it around a little bit. And of course, that was the year that Tiger Woods won. So coming in at number 2 is Augusta National, but number 1 with a bullet. I didn't even have to think twice about it. I was surprised, Eric, that it didn't make your list. Conor didn't make your list, but I get why. It's the Montreal Forum for me. I was there when Patrick Roy played his last ever game, standing room only. I've told this story before. My birthday always coincides with the start of an NHL season, early October-ish, and my dad used to wake me up wiggle my big toe in bed. Let's go line up for tickets. And we would go from Saint Laurent, go down to Atwater and St. Catherine and line up outside for tickets for home openers. And that's a memory I'll never forget. So it's number 1 on my list.
Very nice.
Anyone have a worse place they've ever watched a game?
For me, it would be Buffalo. Ralph. Yeah, right. That was awful. But every NFL game I go to, something happens because it's also a drinking event. I've been to a Washington game at FedEx where the guy beside me was vomiting everywhere, literally sitting beside me. Not only that, before the game, I bought a ticket off a guy who had 2, and the game was about to start. But I said, I'll buy that one off you, but for half the price you're asking for, jerk. And so he said, fine. He gave it to me. I go over to my seat. Who's sitting beside me? It was his other ticket. That was really awkward.
Shea Stadium's a dump. There's another one I'll nominate.
All right, guys, we're at almost an hour.
That's enough. Okay.
Thank you. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve with you both as members of this podcast.
Thank you.
And we'll get another one in this week. I think the Canadians play Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Friday.
No, Wednesday,
Friday, Saturday.
So maybe
Thursday. Thursday sounds good. All right. I'll see you guys on Thursday. I'll see you twice on Thursday. Take care.
Keep it real. We'll talk to you in a couple of days.